Yeah, baby. Yeah. The Mac is back. Back with another video. Hello, the initiated. My name is Marcus Junikala, and today we're checking out Super Audio Cart 2 by Impact Soundworks. Now, I'm sure this is a company that many of you are familiar with. They've been around for quite a while, and they've made a bunch of different sort of stuff. Some orchestral, some sort of, specialized instruments, and also probably they are, I would guess, this is a guess, but best known for Super Audio Cart 1, which is sort of considered to be one of the top contenders if you're looking for comprehensive, authentic, great sounding sounds for your kind of retro video game music. All those bleepy bloppy things that so many of us love. So getting a version 2 is a big deal because version 1 was already, highly praised. So let's go to the website to learn a bit more about what this thing is. So they call this the definitive collection of retro video game samples spanning over 30 years of gaming history. All right. So visually, bit of an update. Personally, I wasn't really, I didn't feel like number one had sort of, any functional issues visually. This does look refreshed, I would say. So it definitely a welcome addition for sure. But, working with one, I didn't find it to be very painful at all. This costs $199, and I think this is the full price. Now, this has been out for a while. They did reach out to me when this came out, but we couldn't really figure out a way to do this any sooner. I got this license a few days ago now, so I'm guessing no interpricing is going on anymore. So I'm guessing this is the full price. But of course, whenever you may be watching this, have a look at the site, and if you are a part of their newsletter, maybe they have some offers there, or on their other social platforms or anything like that. So always check the latest offers and pricings. But what I see now is just shy of $200, which price-wise, I'm actually... Obviously, we haven't laid our hands on this yet, but knowing what I know about Super Audio Cart 1, if you are big into using these sounds, this is, I would say, very reasonable. Obviously, we'll touch on Super Audio Cart 2, and we'll see what I think at the end. But from a basic principle standpoint, I can see that some companies could or would charge more for like a super comprehensive, assuming high quality set of, authentic retro video game sounds. The thing about Super Audio Cart is that it is really, number one was already very comprehensive, but apparently 2 is even more. So you do get like a very, very wide set of things. So if you're making this type of music or incorporating these type of sounds to any degree, and you're looking for that one thing to rule them all, from that perspective, this pricing is pretty appealing, at least to me. But you have to make your own mind, of course. The legendary 8-bit, 16-bit, and 32-bit / 64-bit, that's one hell of a sentence, eras of gaming in sample library form. So yes, this importantly indeed is sampling based. This is not modeling anything. And again, that's not like good or bad. They're different approaches, and certainly I've heard that both approaches can sound fantastic. So, decide for yourself. with your ears. Exhaustively sampled from 19 distinctive consoles, handhelds, and sound chips. The first library ever to delve into platforms like the Nintendo 64, SampleCell 2, and PlayStation. Over 6,000 authentic sound sources, from simple waves to timeless acoustic PCM samples. Customize, tweak, and transform sounds with a massively powerful synth engine. Runs in the free Kontakt player. There you go. So now you know that it does run in there. Bit of a trailer video there. So again, the ultimate compendium of video game musical history. We won't spend time reading this through because we sort of want to stick to maybe the more descriptive things, because these are obviously, trying to convey to you what this thing is and what it's good at. 100% authentic and royalty free. So they say they did not rip samples from existing games, spent years painstakingly recreating thousands of classic sounds from scratch, using our own sample catalog and careful editing. Where applicable, these sounds were then played back directly from the original hardware for maximal authenticity. In other words, the sounds in Super Audio Kart 2 are as close as possible to the sounds you remember from your favorite retro video games, without any need to worry about copyright infringement or royalties. Cool. Seems like they have... let's see. We created our own virtual dream hardware with its own Impact Factory library. The library covers all general MIDI sounds and much more, just like the hardware that inspired it. We recorded and edited samples to match the style of a mid-90s sampler. Okay, cool. These are sounds you've never heard before. Interesting. Created by game music fanatics. Every developer who worked on Super Audio Kart 2 has a deep connection to video game soundtracks. Over the years, we have arranged video game music, studied it, owned an array of consoles and MIDI hardware, and written our own retro-inspired video game soundtracks. Game soundtracks. We are obsessive perfectionists. Especially about things we care about, and we care a lot about video games. That's kind of endearing. In a way. I mean that in a good way. It says a lot when somebody writes that down. It's like, I do believe them. Simply put, this is our ultimate. Okay. Simply put, this is our ultimate passion project. A true labor of love. It's everything great about the original Super Audio Kart and its later expansion Super Audio Kart PC, plus so much more. There's a walkthrough video, and now we get to the list of the consoles that this thing is, recreating the sounds of. So Nintendo 64, obviously a big one. PlayStation, this is a really good inclusion. I'm actually happy to see that PlayStation has kind of moved into the realm of retro sound, because it really wasn't that for, not too long ago. Because it's been kind of like an in-between console between, the N64s and anything beyond that. But I do personally have a nostalgia slot, or nostalgic slot for the PlayStation and its sound, because obviously I played a lot of PlayStation. Final Fantasy VII obviously is the most notable, biggest thing. But I'm happy to see that the sound of it has kind of moved into the desirable retro sound realm. So they say CDs instead of cartridges meant multiple audio playback styles and capabilities. Emulates the PSX audio chip, which could be used for sequencing samples compressed as VAG. I just said the acronym. That's it. VAG. A more modern iteration of the AdLib. That's how it's officially pronounced, okay? I'm not making any of this up. AdLib. That sounds like the Warthog airplane going like and then it just destroys everything in its path. Cool. Let's move on. SampleCell 2. A popular sound card from the early 90s. Not a true sampler, but functionally a rompler with user-editable sound banks, able to replay up to 32 voices across 8 channels. Factory library notably used in the soundtracks of Super Mario 64, The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, and more. So yeah, this is a very liked or loved one, for sure. Game Boy Advance. Very happy to see this here. I still played the Game Boy Advance when it came out, or was out. I guess it's still out, technically. Certainly out of style. I don't know. Wow, that was a great joke. But I played a lot of Game Boy Advance. And I kind of like the sound of it, because it's sort of like Game Boy, but with a bit of like Game Boy Color with a bit of added fidelity, if you will. Early 2000s handheld with no dedicated sound chip, so samples varied from developer to developer and from game to game. Okay, that's actually interesting to know. I thought it did have a sound chip. Very electronically noisy, which combined with poor fidelity and tuning of most audio samples to create a distinctive sound. Nice, cool. But that's very good to know, because like a lot of these different sound cards or platforms have sort of overlapping sounds a bit, because some of the, like, for example, Game Boy Advance can sound a bit like some of the, you know, for example, like SNES stuff. I know a lot of people are like, what are you saying, Marcus? But like from a very, like a basic observation, simple thing. But my point is, you can sort of hybridize and use different sounds. Even if you're creating something like a SNES style soundtrack, you could probably loan things from other consoles or their emulations or their samples and use them. And probably you might get more of what you're actually after. So NES, obviously here, America's favorite 80s console. Ryco 2A03APU with 5 channels, 2 pulse channels, 1 triangle channel, 1 noise channel, 1 lo-fi channel. That's how it's pronounced. Yeah, classic Sega Genesis or Mega Drive, depending on where you are. Very cool inclusion as well. FM synth, nice. Commodore 64. One of my favorites. It's just such a good sounding, powerful thing. So it has a MOS 6581 SID chip. Used 80s home computer. Widely used. Yeah. Legendary, very nice. Okay, SNES, enormously popular home console at the heart of the original Super Audio cart. Yep. Again, I love this. It has a very specific sound, obviously, but yeah, if you're creating something in that sound era, great for that. Game Boy, original, fantastic. AdLib music synthesizer card. Uses FM synthesis to produce multi-timbral instruments and sound effects. Nice. Not very familiar with that. Wait a minute, has Jake Kaufman actually made these some of these tracks? That's very cool. If so. Is it the same Jake? I'm guessing so. Amiga 500. Nice. Sega Master System. That console looks badass. I mean, look at that thing. So good looking. Aegis Sonics. One of the very first software synths in the mid-80s. Okay, nice. Cool. Atari ST or Pokey. I'm a poke you. Sound chip from the best and final line of Atari home computers. Nice. Tracker Ultimate Sound Tracker. Nice. Commodore Amiga Tracker. Very cool. Wingroove. Mid-90s PC application that enabled higher quality playback of MIDI files. Okay. Wingroove. Okay. ASCII. ASCII. Or is that number 2? I don't know. I'm not familiar. I mean, I'm familiar with the thing, but I'm not actually familiar. I've never heard it being pronounced, I don't think. Home computer. Nice. And then Famicom. Japan's version of the NES. Had expanded sound capabilities. Of course it did. Because Japan. Why you guys get all the good stuff and send the crap to America? Cool. Okay, so that's what they are offering there. Quite a comprehensive list of things. Well, actually, I'm pretty sure they have Game Boy Color in there, but also, this is not even a complete list, is it? Let's go here. Let me, where the heck do I? Okay, so, Game Boy. Okay, it is in there. But, yeah, maybe they didn't list it. Let's see. Okay, so it's only Game Boy. It's not Game Boy Color. Which is kind of... I'm pretty sure Super Audio Kart 1 had Game Boy Color in there. Did it not? Or does it? Is it so close to something else that it doesn't matter? I don't know. Let's actually go... Let's go have a look, because I want to know. There's a song about that, but due to copyright reasons, I will not sing. Let's go in here. Let's go. Okay, so they just don't sell the complete anymore. Or they do, but it's just number 2. Maybe I'm just misremembering this. Because Super Audio Boy... Well, that's free, yes, but... Okay, maybe I'm just mixing it up. Maybe I remembered that the Game Boy thing is actually... Game Boy Color. But, yeah, maybe it... I mean, I'm sure there's a ton of overlap here, so... No issue. Some features here. Touching on the content. 6,000 sound sources from 20 consoles, handhelds, and sound chips. Again, listed over there. Sounds a very musical category. Bass, brass, drums, effects, guitars, orchestral hit, organ, percussion, piano, simple wave, strings, synth lead, synth pad, synth poly, tune percussion, voice, and winds. Nice. System requirements, Kontakt or Kontakt Player 7.10.7 or later. Mac OS 10.12 or higher. Intel or Apple Silicon, Windows 10 or later, 20 gigs of available storage space. So this is very size-wise, not gonna hurt you much. Certainly if you make a lot of this kind of music, it's, nothing basically. But yeah, I guess it makes sense because kind of the sampling of the snippets, even if at high quality, they're still, very small. So it does make sense. What people are saying about Super Audio Card 2, there are like 2 pages here. No, wait, how does this work? Well, anyway, 5 stars. There's some frequently asked questions. There's something called the Modrix, which is like their new modulation matrix. They call it, or ask, is this the most powerful modulation matrix ever? I don't know. You tell me. So yeah, I mean, obviously today we're just gonna touch on things at a more surface level, but things like these, features like these are very welcome and obviously super useful if you make a ton of this kind of music and, want to have more control. Okay, Zircon also did a track here apparently, so they have some good artists here making some demo tracks. Cool, and you can join the newsletter if you want to. Yeah, let's go to the DAW here and get going. So one of the things that is going to make this an almost impossible review or deep dive to do well, I guess, is that based on, as I was setting this up, I was having a look at how the library is laid out. And the good news is that it is very nicely, clearly laid out based on the sound card or the console or wherever the sound is originating from. Now I'm in Kontakt 8 here, so in here you can choose all banks, you can and load up or browse 6,000 presets if you want. But then you can also choose console-based or sound card-based. So C64, for example, here are all the sounds associated with that, which actually looks pretty... That was pretty easily digestible, a bit more in the N64. But this is a great way of staying era true or sound true. And if like I want to write Game Boy music, like sort of very purely, then you can load those up and play those. This is excellent for that approach. My concern is that this approach doesn't cater to people who want to write this type of music but aren't very well versed either in these different sound cards and consoles, or frankly they're not interested in that and they just want to write music. So that way they would be forced, which is not a bad thing per se, but they would be forced to go in here and learn what these sounds are, which is obviously a good thing for a musician and an aspiring composer, songwriter, artist to do. But I think there would be merit to an approach where you actually have also presets that are built from a non-platform specific way, so that you could go in there and start playing from a perspective of not being so focused on authenticity, or rather like going from a platform basis. And as far as I can tell, and I tried to be as thorough about this as I could so I don't misspeak, because frankly the fact that we don't have presets that start from from like a general creative standpoint, rather than this is a sound from this sound card or this console. I think it is a aspect that is, if that's missing, it does bring a lot of problems to those who, again, don't want to take this approach into these sounds. Now, so I went through the manual and I could not find that these sort of presets exist at all. They sort of a bit maybe confusingly, and it's made even more confusing by the fact that apparently Native Instruments calls snapshots something different now, like presets. Anyway, to my understanding, still in this instrument, individual sounds are called presets, and they are indeed loadable presets in here. So again, I mean, Game Boy, so that, this saw, for example, would be a preset that I can load in there. But yes, I went through the manual and I could not find that there are presets beyond this platform authentic specific approach. Again, if I'm wrong about this, please do correct me, and I do apologize for missing that. But also as if it does exist as a criticism, I would say that it's pretty difficult to find then if it does exist. But I don't think it does, because I went through everything here, as they do state. Talk about the Kontakt snapshot system, and I did check all the avenues that they mention here. So I do believe that this is indeed it. So basically you are getting console or computer or sound card specific sounds, and they are under that sound card or console, and that's where you find them. So there are no presets where that source material is taken, then put into some kind of a more refined sound designed preset and then given to you. And I think that missing is a big kind of lacking aspect, because even if I do know all of these sound chips and all what they sound like, I still want to be looking for inspiration, want to be looking for starting points, want to be looking for what this thing can do, and having really, really well sound designed, developed, polished presets where these sounds are combined and brought together to do things. Having that is kind of a big part of libraries for me, at least. But yeah, as far as I can tell, that does not exist in here. That being said, it is just one aspect of this, and obviously the most important aspect is the approach that they have taken. So we will treat it as such. Now, the impossibility of making this deep dive is that I possibly can't demo everything here. There are just too many consoles, too many sound cards, and too many sounds. So I'm just gonna have to pick and choose things. And also, since we don't have those kind of like further refined, developed, polished, sound designed presets, we're just gonna have to play these individual sounds, which demonstrates the instrument in a good way, in a sense, but also is not probably going to be as kind of comprehensive or enlightening to a bunch of other people. So it is what it is in this case. But that being said, I think a lot of people who are into this would probably want to prefer to hear sounds individually here. Cool. I think what I'll do is I'll choose sound cards or consoles based on my own primary interests first, and then we'll go into some of the more fringe ones for me, This is obviously going to be very different for everybody because you want to do different things, but I got to start somewhere, and so this is what I'll do. But let's start with C64, and what we'll do here is I'll browse through things from the Kontakt menu, and when I hear something that I want to check out further, I'll load it up and go from there. They do say that they do recommend browsing things through their browser, which looks nice, clean, clear. I'm not going to do that in this case because I do want to use the Kontakt 8 preview function so that in this demo you can hear more of what I'm doing. And it's also easier for me to locate things instead of changing things here. But you should know that they do recommend using this. Presumably works smoother and better and faster. And I do see the sense in why this would be good to use. But just so you know, briefly looking at the interface here, we are looking at, so when you go into this Allbanks forum here, there are basically 3 different kind of instrument modes here. So you can load all systems, and this is just going to be one layer. So again, you see layer A here, which is one layer, or you can load things from a computer basis. So I'm guessing this is all the sound cards that are computer based, and then you have also console based. So that's how this is. You can load up these instruments here. Again, turn layers on, turn them off, big power button. In this screen where it says the name of the console or the sound card and an image, you can click that, and that takes you to the browser. And that's where you can load up things straight into that slot. Easy enough. Again, you can browse by console, category, source. So this is basically the type of synthesis, and then a tag. This is actually, really usable, very useful, because you can look for what you're looking for from a sound basis rather than a source basis. It's actually weird that, I guess, sound source is form of synthesis, but, or, sound generation. I guess that's a bit of a confusing choice of word for me, but clear enough. Cool. And then based on your selections here, you can choose sounds from the browser on the right. And then you can choose also quickly the engines or the layer slots from down below, so you don't have to go here and go through there. So that's very nice. Again, when you click on these slots here, when you're not in the browser, this opens up, a lot of really basic but essential, useful controls. Pitch bend range, velocity range, keyboard range, mono legato, portamento, basic stuff, filter, velocity, controls, ADSR for, filter and amp. So very basic, but essential, necessary. And then you have an ARP page with an ARP sequencer to choose from. This was actually really, really solid in Super Audio Card 1, so I'm sure it's even better here. Looks clearer, cleaner. On the right, you have a layer blend thing, which is, again, useful for blending between layers. Personally, I'm like more like a single layer user at a time and then layer in my DAW. But for those who don't want to do that, this is very nice. And pretty basic stuff. Also, without jumping into this layer specific menu, you also have volume control, pan, pitch, and that kind of stuff. And mute, and solo. So, pretty simple. On the top, you have selections for engine, which is the page we're currently on, effects page, where in these slots corresponding to the A, B, C, D layers and their colors, you can load different effects here. So that's nice. I wonder if they have, is the game verb built into this one? Because if it is, it makes the offer very much more appealing. I actually couldn't see any mention of that, so I would presume no. Let's see. I am also very tired, so I'm sorry if I miss a bunch of things, which I'm sure. Okay, so SNES verb. But I'm not sure this is... Yeah, I think this is the individual one just for SNES. So I don't see game verb. I'm guessing they want to keep it as a different product, which would make sense. But cool, you can go in there, effects individually on layers and also on the master channel there. Cool. And this is the Modrix, which we're not going to go into, but has a lot of macro slots for sure. And here in the engine page on the top bar, you can control those as well, or their intensity. So yeah, I'm pretty sure it looks like a pretty basic matrix thing, but there is... Okay, so modulator sources, envelope, LFO, stepper, velocity, yeah. So powerful, very useful. When I say basic, that's not like a bad thing, but I don't see any like crazy architecture here, but very cool to have, because I'm sure that will be super, super useful to a lot of people who go kind of bonkers crazy with this. Cool. Let me open up this again. So I'm gonna go one layer at a time, just so I can focus on individual sounds. C64. I'm gonna open that again and start browsing here. I guess a few things, basic stuff. This is the biggest intro ever, but there's a lot of stuff to go through. In terms of what you'll be hearing today, it's Super Audio Card 2 in action. I don't add any effects of my own whatsoever. No EQ, reverb, nothing. I just have a limiter on my master bus to monitor the level and control it for this. Yeah, just for just for purposes to making this level, the level for this video, as smooth and enjoyable for you as possible. That being said, it's set to be as transparent as possible, so you should hear minimal, if any, coloration. And in fact, I mean, most of the time I'm not hitting the limiter at all. So just gain control, making the level good for this video. Impact Soundworks did send me this copy, so thank you to them for doing so. That being said, as always, all opinions are my own, both in good and bad. I haven't been asked to say anything one way or the other, nor would I ever do that. This is a blind demo. I have played maybe 3 single note things just to make sure that we're good to go for recording, but that's it. So you'll see my authentic responses to this thing. But let's start with the Commodore 64 and start browsing some of these sounds. That's such a good kick. I mean, yeah, that's super, super juicy. So right off the bat, I would love to see some coloration here in the Kontakt window in terms of what is where. Because it seems like we do cycle through the same sounds, but it doesn't quite go on an octave basis. So yeah, it seems like the layout is sort of just under 1 octave and they just repeat it. So that's a bit of a strange... I would love to see more clarity there. I mean, I just love these drums. Yeah, I mean, I'm immediately like, how do I can obviously play and find my bearings, but to have to, I mean, no color coordination here does make it a lot more difficult. Is there any other way for me to see a list of the sounds included in this preset? Because I want to be super fair here, obviously, and I do apologize if I miss things, but I cannot see a way or a place for that. Nope, I can't see it. But so, and again, the set it's not same on each octave because the amount of them seems to be, yeah, let's play around. I'm also immediately wondering, where do I control the individual volume levels for all of these things? Because this is a drum kit. So if I wanted to increase the level of any of these elements, how do I do that? And I'm guessing I can't, based on what I'm seeing here. I generally don't see any way to do that. So I would probably have to pull them up individually and then control the level that way. I mean, that sounds really nice, very full, very juicy, super good. I do want to praise the menus for the individual elements. Again, this makes the leveling a bit easier in case they're not to your liking. I find it really difficult to... I literally see no place where that could exist. Like individual level controls there. I don't think it does. But it's just like if I had to... I mean, to be fair, I would personally, anyway, want to have all these individual elements like a kick, snare, hi-hat on individual tracks. So no biggie from that perspective, but like inside my DAW. But to have them not have the ability to control it here, in case someone wanted to have an entire kit on one track, would make it impossible. Because, for example, these sounds are very quiet compared to most. Yeah, but having menus for individual elements is just fantastic, and I would say essential. But this makes it so fast when you're working on a track. You want to locate the right sound. It's just happening so fast. This should be, a must in every library. Loving the menu for noises. Also very, very good. Yeah, I mean, the drums sound super, super good. Yeah, I mean, if you can't tell, really loving this. Yeah, it sounds really good. I mean, just a basic, apparently, pulse and pulse, but I mean, this is sounding very, very juicy, crispy, powerful. It doesn't sound harsh. That's one of the biggest problems or challenges that libraries like this can face, because the sounds, I mean, the source sounds in most cases in their context are not harsh themselves, for a multitude of reasons. But when companies trying to recreate those things, they can end up being sort of very brittle and harsh. But I'm really happy this is sounding, very nice and warm. Yeah, sounds great. Yeah, this is really nice to have these different fast presets for those degrees. And this is sounding very, very, very juicy. Very powerful. Let's go take the mono away. It's kind of like, I would expect maybe to have a control for poly or mono, but now you just turn mono on or off, which makes sense also, but it's just maybe the way I think about it. That sounds really good. Really good. Crisp, powerful, but it is soft. Very, very nice to listen to. Cool. Okay, I think we let's move on from Commodore, just so we don't spend all day doing that. Let's go. I'll go in order in terms of what I'm most interested in, and again we'll look back to touch on some of the other things. Let's go to Game Boy next and start previewing. I mean, I love this sound. I do wish the knobs were tuned a bit differently, because this is a bit, I feel like I need to work the mouse a bit too much to move these. Just, this is a very much more having to do with the user experience and the user interface. But these things matter a lot. It's called knob tuning, I guess. But yeah, feels a bit stiff to my hand. I mean, that sounds so good. This is one of my favorite sounds from like the Game Boy era. And it's just like so gritty, crispy. I mean, I can't wait to put some Game Verb on there as well, which is their reverb plugin. But I mean, this is just so, because even in this zone, it stays crispy, clear. Because this could easily get very sort of muddy and cluttery. Yeah, very nice. Very, very good. Oh, I love this sound as well. I was just listening to the Metal Gear Solid Ghost Babel video game soundtrack, which with my cousin. Absolutely amazing soundtrack. But a lot of these sounds do remind me of a lot of the things that I love about that soundtrack, especially these lower, grittier things. They really use those to great effect. Yeah, it's really good to have these. Obviously, I'm already thinking about using the ARP to do things, but it's so nice to have all of this like on board here very quickly. Let's move on. It's actually something I was literally thinking just a few days ago as I was hanging out with my cousin. Like on that soundtrack, the Metal Gear Solid Ghost Babel. Let's go with that. Babel. Tower of Babel. I think that's how it's pronounced. Anyway, how well are they using that noise channel just to do the drums? Like the drums are literally just different type of noises, and they're just so. It sounds so good, so cohesive. Let's push the volume a bit because we can. So good. And I could play these all day. There you go. Best demo on YouTube. Yeah, again, nothing but praise for the menu approach. Very nice. It's good. It's good. It takes me back, you know, and that's when you know it's like a emotion thing. It's like a feeling thing. You go like, yes, because before I've played many sample libraries and virtual instruments, like modeling ones that do these kind of things, and you know a lot of the time you go like there's just a bit too much harshness in there, and you're kind of struggling to make things work. It's just, but this sounds so juicy and nice. Yeah, I mean, this just makes me want to start writing a soundtrack for this. Yeah, that's always probably the highest praise I can give. That sounds so nice. Cool. Game Boy. Let's go to Game Boy Advanced, because you know I'm a fan, and I'm actually really excited for this. Oh, look how much we have here. That's really, really good. Acoustic guitars are always interesting when we get into this type of a sound, because this kind of like I said earlier, a lot of these sounds are like residing in that SNES type of era thing. So very interesting things begin to happen in that zone. Try and get some of that transient aggressiveness out. It kind of turns it more into like a bottle type of sound, like a bottle blowing, or like a woodwind type of a sample. I really like, I mean, overall, not a sound that I would probably use a lot, but I love the tiny noise details in there. It's very nice. Brings a beautiful amount of like grit and noise in there. I really, really like that and appreciate that they, kept it in there. This sounds really interesting. I mean, first of all, again, the noise profile here is beautiful. Those kind of things matter a lot, especially when you're talking about authenticity, but I just also like the sound of that noise. So that's really, really cool. You can hear the of the noise. I was muted. I said, fantastic. I mean, to me, that's like a immediately attention grabbing, like a main theme title worthy sound for that kind of like, Zelda type of a thing. Absolutely, absolutely beautiful. And again, the noise profile there is just perfect. Again here, it just has that kind of juice, that kind of thickness, especially in that zone. Not so much kind of like scoops, mid scoops here in the beyond this point. Also, there's a slight sound, kind of like a noise happening there. Let's do a bit of tweaking here. My playing isn't exactly what I actually want to do, but I'm so tired that I'd rather try and keep this thing, try and keep this ship afloat and not play horribly messed up, jumbled stuff. But yeah, I mean, this is just super inspiring to me. The sound is just lovely. just so crisp and sharp, and but still, you know, juicy at the same time. That's really, really nicely done. Let's check out some of these kits here. Yeah, I mean, some kind of color coding here, indication of where things are, would be very useful, because now I just need to look them up myself. Cool. 808 Game Boy Advanced. I wasn't expecting that. I know I'm playing the same thing, but I mean, this is, it's so crispy and kind of gritty at the edge, but it's so thick. There's a lovely bit of detuning there as well. It's so good. I've been forgetting to favorite these things, but I mean, so nice. I mean, again, there, the noise profile is very, very nice. Okay, yeah, we have a fair bit of Game Boy Advance sounds here, so I'm gonna have to pick and choose. And that's a pretty cool sound. Maybe a bit of tweaking there, but this would be very interesting for like some hip-hop sampling as well. Yeah, acoustic guitars are always tough for me. Like, I never feel like I'm quite satisfied. With them. But that sounds really nice. Giving me some of those Stardew Valley vibes. Yeah, that has like a lovely, soft, puffy pluckiness to it. Yeah, I mean, that's probably one of my favorite guitars in that style. It's kind of like in the similar ballpark that what you would go for with an SNES type of thing. Obviously, it is different, but so let's try and pick something. I like this. Obviously a bit challenged in the tuning department, but that's part of the charm. Put a bit of game verb on that and that'll be fine. That's the limiter distorting, not the instrument. Why am I hitting this mic all the time? Maybe I need to get rid of you. You little piece of... Yeah, very nice. Liking that. I mean, there are just so many here that I'm going to have to be very brutish here. Limiter. loving these kind of sounds. Very good. Nicely snappy. Yeah, I mean, these are probably some of the best sounds in this style and genre that I've heard. Wow. Loving the noise profile there. Obviously, we'll see how that changes. Yeah, that's really good. I mean, that's just a great sound, period. Like, obviously, it would be kind of like lo-fi-ish in a different context. It's remarkable how well it sort of holds up from a realism standpoint. It's not like obviously being like a hyper real thing, but it sounds like something really like cool, like sampled in a room, sort of on the side, kind of semi well. Very, very cool sound. Loving the noise profile there. Very cool. That is stunning. Just beautiful, period. It's so like clunky in the best possible way. Has that kind of tactile nature, but it's obviously very lo-fi, noisy. But it sounds like there's that pinch of realism in there, and then it's kind of tweaked and lo-fied. That is absolutely stunning. Very cool. Those have a really tangible sense of space. Again, same thing. This is a really nice spot. In some ways, it's kind of like this approach can hit like a very nice hint of realism with some of these sounds that I haven't really heard that anywhere. This is not something I recognize from my playing career with the Game Boy Advanced. But I mean, this is like a bit of an under-tapped sound, I would say. These would be so good for a lot of lo-fi music. Never thought I'd say that going into this deep dive today, but there you go. Super unique sound. This is, my estimation, pretty, again, under-tapped sound overall. Very interesting mix of like the retro gaming meeting like low quality sampling meeting the noise treatment of the system. It's just such a, obviously a very simple sound, but it just sounds like perfectly crispy and full. There's just none of that sort of harshness that you're usually afraid of with this sampling these kind of things. Again, the noise profile on that, beautiful. I mean, that's haunting, because that's like a sample thing, but very lo-fi. Very cool. Very cool. Starting to wish someone did like a sample library from this on this basis, this kind of sampling style and noise profiling. I mean, I think we got to make a decision here to move on. I mean, there's just so much in here. But yeah, for the sake of time, I mean, pretty floored by the Game Boy Advanced things. So I'm guessing this is Genesis. Let's do a few of these. I remember really liking the drums from the Genesis system. Yeah, just remember it sounding like very full and juicy, so that's good. Because it does have this kind of aggressive, splashy sound. Works really well for drums and for really like aggressive synthy things. Yeah, I mean, it's no wonder we see a lot of drum kits here. It's just like a super fat sounding thing. I mean, yeah, these are so nice because it capture the thing, but the thing is like they sound very thick. Yeah, these are sounding great. Yeah, clearly like a very thick sounding thing, very aggressive edge, but yeah, it works really well for drums. Let's go to N64. Again, this is a very rich, very rich category here. But let's try and grab a few from here. Beautiful, that puffiness there on the low end. Obviously, it's just part of the sample capturing process there, but it's just a beautiful sound. So yeah, a lot of these do seem to have a lot of overlap with the Game Boy Advance things, but this is like less lo-fi for sure, because it's a different thing. But in terms of the sound selection here, seems pretty similar. That's the limiter clipping. That, how beautiful of a sound is that? Let's that is gorgeous. I mean, wow. Just forget retro video game sounds. It's just a beautiful sound. I'm really surprised by how many of these really sort of cross boundaries in terms of genre or expectations. That's just a beautiful sound. Obviously good for, Nintendo 64 stuff as well, but I mean, wow. really, really good. I mean, that's like instantly recognizable. Very beautiful, clear, full sound. I mean, having a gamelan in here is really cool. Sounds very nice. Beautiful sound. Immediately takes you there, and it's just so clean, full, clear, beautiful. Cool. Okay. I mean, we just have to move on for the sake of time, but sound really good. NES. Gotta do some of these. It's such a good sound. I mean, just the fact that, I mean, by nature, the way these are done, the drums have a beautiful muffled top end, makes them very like dusty and thick and warm. Very nice. What's impressive though is that they are, you know, full and warm, but they're still very clean and clear. And that's the beauty of the sounds of these eras. But also, I mean, to have it captured that way, that it actually comes across is really nice. Because what's really important about these sounds is that we obviously perceived these through other mediums, you know, speakers on a TV, like an analog, actual, you know, analog chain and speaker on a TV, for example. And that imparts, and usually a pretty, you know, crappy speaker on a TV or whatever else. and that imparts a certain color to it. But so when you're actually capturing these sounds, you kind of need to, if you're staying true to the authenticity of them as they sound on their own, that's one thing. And oftentimes they do to the technology being used, they do sound like they have that fullness and warmness, or warmth maybe. I'm sorry, I have 2 functioning brain cells at this point after being sick for 3 weeks and my sleep is damaged. Yeah, they do have this very interesting combination of that focus and clarity, but also obviously the lo-fi qualities of the technology. So it must be actually really difficult to capture these things. But yeah, I mean, excellent job. I just love the kicks from the NES. Really good. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Let's actually go to the ARP here. See if we can figure this out. Okay, we gotta first turn it on. Where do you turn yourself on? Okay, that's volume. That's ARP mode. Do I need to... What does that mean? Tie, okay. Sync to host. How do I turn this thing on? Okay, let's actually try and use these brain cells here. Do I need to turn it on from No, it would make... Okay, so there's a light here on the top. Yeah, actually, this is yeah. I mean, it's a ton of fun. I always love arpeggiators, so you know, kind of a no-brainer from that. But yeah, this works really nicely. It's a bit. I mean, the fact that I need to look for that light or enablement on there is a bit. I mean, this is probably a control that should double exist on the ARP interface and also the layer here. It's very nice to have on the layer because I can turn it on and off here as well. But to have it coexist on this page as well would be good. But ARP works in a lovely way. I really like these hack sounds. Good. NES. Pokemon. My brain is so fried at this point. Jeez. All right. Actually, I'll do PSX first as a PlayStation fan. And let's go from there. Damn, that sounds thick. Seems like the portamento rate here is very, very sensitive. And this just sounds stunning. It's just a simple sound, bit of ARP, bit of basic ADSR tweaking. But it's just so crispy, beautiful, full, juicy sound with some magic sparkles on top. Yeah, stunning. Again, we have a ton of sounds for the PSX. Yeah, very nice, clunky, crispy sound. Very cool. Don't remember the PlayStation sounding this good. I mean, how good does that sound like? This selection of sounds here seems very similar between Game Boy Advanced, PSX, SNES. Very beautiful. Yeah, the selection of sounds seems very similar. Like obviously, they're going to use. I mean, these come from like a similar heritage, so that's one aspect. Also, that they just want to cover similar instruments as well. This is actually really nice because these will give you different sort of tones for the same things. We're not going to start playing with that because I'll just get stuck doing crazy ARP stuff with that. Again, cool. Okay, yeah. Let's go to SC2. Wait, did we already... I'm losing my brain at this point. But anyway, yeah, let's go to SC2. Do a few of these. Damn, that's clean. Actually really impressive for like a simple thing. Again, same thing here. Very nice sound. I can see why this was liked, because these are actually very impressive. Like, you could do pretty, like, decent stuff with this, you know, back in the day. They are surprisingly good. I can imagine being a composer back then and being like, oh, I have these sounds at my disposal. That mid part has a really nice crispy edge to it. cool. Let's move on. Yeah, cool. I can imagine this was like very cool at its time, giving you, I mean, well, I don't know why I say that because I don't exactly know the time. But I can imagine this was out probably when, you know, sampling wasn't yet, you know, pushed into more realistic territory. So this would kind of give you sounds with like enough realism to push you into that, like, ooh, cool. Hey, that's the actual thing maybe that I'm actually listening to. Like that's a string instrument, and they could sample those pianos and those drums actually really well. Obviously, the problem is sampling with resolution across the board, but yeah, very impressive. Cool. What else? Let me see. Pokey. This actually sounds really good. Yeah, super rough, or kind of grindy, very nice. I don't remember which one it is. Was it AdLib or Aegis that I wanted to check out? Actually really liking that. Yeah, this reminds me of some of the stuff that I would have heard on like old computers for computer games. Yeah, it has that kind of thinness, like something like sucked out, scooped out. Also, the top end has that that sample rate reduction or bit crushing. Yeah, it's actually fun to have that. AdLib. Cool. Anything else we want to briefly jump into? No, I think we're going to call it there because we've been already going for a long time. It's one of those videos where you film for ages and still you feel like you did fuck all, I guess. That's what you get when you have, how many chips was this? 20 or something? There's a lot of stuff in here. So, yeah, I mean, like I said in the beginning, it's going to be difficult to try and do this justice and cover any sort of reasonable ground without doing like a 10-hour thing or a 24-hour thing. But hopefully this was of some use to you. Overall, very, very impressed by this, liking this a lot. It has, I mean, even though we're talking about these type of retro sounds, which are very simple waveforms in many cases, certainly when we go to the older consoles and generations, talking about simple waveforms or, you know, simple sampling, even when you go to further in time or forward in time. Yes. Even though that's the case, these machines and their architecture, the way they are, they impart a certain quality to these simple waveforms and simple sounds. And what I really like about this is that the sounds are across the board very full and juicy and clean and crisp and have that kind of sparkle fairy dust on top. Because my experience, like I said many times during this, has been that when you try and sample these kind of things or do anything in the kind of simple waveform, retro sound end of things can be quite harsh and harsh sounding. But very happy to report that these sound very juicy, full, super, super nice. So that's really the most important thing that I can say, because you don't want to start writing music, put a lot of hard work into it, and then the source sounds just kind of suck. So not the case here. Talking about the scope of things, I mean, this is an insanely broad selection of chips, and I say that as a praise. Like it's not a negative thing here, because I would suspect a lot of people come in here looking for certain type of things. You know, someone who makes Game Boy music, or someone who makes SNES stuff, or you know, Commodore, whatever it is. You can go in there and search for your things. Obviously, with my approach, I like to cross boundaries and mix things with one another. I'm not like if I were to write a soundtrack with something like this, I'm not a purist, you know, in that way. So I would probably mix things, because that's probably what would make my vision come true in the best possible light. So I'm not a purist myself in that way if I were to write something like this. Obviously, if I was commissioned and they said you have to use Game Boy sounds only, then fair enough, calm down, I'll do it. But I would probably try and, you know, influence them to you know, mix it up, and because I feel like that can bring so much more depth and nuance and color to your sound. But again, going to the point of using this, even though there's a lot of chips in here, a lot of consoles, a lot of sound cards, it's the width of it is just a positive thing, because this gives a lot of bang for your buck. Some of these categories, when you open the banks, as they're called, I guess, are a bit surprisingly narrow. Those would be the the consoles or the sound cards that are simpler, like the Commodore here, or if we go to Game Boy, this also, even more narrow, just due to how those instruments are. Could these be broader? Guessing yes. I'm not really an expert in understanding the full expression of those devices musically, but certainly I feel like these really cover the basics really nicely. And obviously there's a lot more you can do with this engine as well. But yeah, like I touched on in the beginning, this approach of doing the banks and the presets on a chip or a console basis is really cool for certain types of users. I would personally still love to see a selection of presets where these source sounds are taken and put into kind of sound designed, polished, production ready presets for a number of reasons. Firstly, to, well, inspire users of this to get in there faster. Right now, it seems like it's kind of serving or aimed at those, not purists, but, you know, people who know what they're looking for, people who know what they're doing. I think there's a huge pool of people out there who would like to get into this music and start, you know, writing with this thing, but they get this and they go into the individual chip sounds and they don't really know how to make it work. Now, granted, that's an issue of composition, like get good and learn learn music composition for sure. But there's I think a time and place for super well done presets that are quite, you know, complex and demonstrate what this thing does and puts these source sounds into use, and kind of because a lot of people learn that way. They pick up a preset that sounds amazing and they break it apart, and then they understand, oh, okay, I like that, and that's what that does, and that's what I want to do. Now, I think this was the case in Super Audio Kart 1, that we did have presets in that fashion. Let me actually check that. Let me try and load this up. Do I actually have it installed? I have so many sample libraries that I can't carry all of them. Yeah, so here I have Super Audio Kart 1 loaded up, and now that I'm actually looking at this, it has been a significant visual makeover. But I mean, I think the fact that I didn't feel that it was such a drastic change kind of speaks something about how decent this looks. I mean, this is clearly a bit more crowded to navigate for sure. So it has seen a good facelift, but yeah, I mean, going to the point that I'm trying to demonstrate here, obviously here in the browser, you can see these named preset names as well. But here in the drop-down menu, they had a folder called Authentic, and these are exactly what you think they are. So these are the authentic chip sounds from the consoles or the sound cards. And here you could go into like the untouched source sounds, but you also have folders. We have ARPs and sequences, basses, drums, and in here you would have these pre-made presets that utilize the existing sounds, and they're put into these kind of polished, sound designed, developed presets. And I think this was a better approach. I'm not sure why this is not done the same way in Super Audio Kart 2. And like I said, if it is somewhere in there, I do apologize, and I want to know where it is, but I can't find it. As far as I can tell, let me select this thing again here. You have to adjust things a bit as we move between these. I'm just sort of ad hoc getting these windows going. But yeah, I cannot find this approach here at all. We just have these banks for each, and in here we have these individual presets that are kind of, you know, the source sounds from that chip or console or sound card. And yeah, for some reason also, if I go into this snapshot browser here in the top bar, it loads super slowly. But even here, yeah, they are in folders, yes, but this seems like the same content, yep. So there isn't like a preset approach that takes everything that this library can offer and gives it to you in like a pre-produced, pre-curated, put-together thing. I think this really needs that, and I think this would be more appealing to more people and more useful to more people. Because right now it's sort of in its more purist enthusiast form. So that would be one of my biggest suggestions here. Obviously, for a lot of people, this is not going to matter at all, but I think there's a big pool of people who do care about that. I mean, some of my personal favorites are the Commodore, the Game Boy. The Game Boy Advanced, I was really surprised by. It's a super unique sound, super unique approach. A lot of the sounds would be amazing for something like lo-fi. Obviously, the sky is the limit for a library like this. It's going to be great for many genres, even beyond the retro video game music thing, although it is made for that. But I think a lot of people, especially in the lo-fi community, and anyone who wants to use synth sounds that are simple and powerful, should have a look at this. But yeah, Game Boy Advanced, some of my favorites. We spent a lot of time on that, so that probably shows it. SNES sounds, and also what else was it? N64 and PSX sounds have a kind of really nice overlap. The Game Boy Advance thing is definitely like the most sort of lo-fi-ish, because it's, done in a different way. But yeah, the overlap is really good because it allows you to use because they have a very similar set of sounds, but have like a larger pool to choose from. And then, yeah, we have a lot of those like harsher, grittier, broken old school sounds, like from the Commodore and Pokey and stuff like that. Also the SC2, I believe. Yes, very impressed by that. I mean, that must have been a really cool thing to have back in the day. I'm surprised how good and realistic that sounded. So it was probably pretty cool back in the day when it came out and you had your hands on something like that. Must have been pretty cool. But yeah, it has like a nostalgia element as well if you're trying to do something in that era as well. There was a lot of stuff here that we didn't check out because, again, it's just so comprehensive. But hopefully this was still a useful look into some of the things that this thing can offer. Again, I feel kind of like we spent a lot of time on this but didn't really cover a lot of ground, just because there's so much content in here. And also I think this is where the other preset approach would have helped a lot, if we had like pre-curated, mixed together, pre-produced, pre-designed presets, because that would have demonstrated this library probably a lot better than I can, and a lot more efficiently and effectively. And yeah, I think that's also a useful point to mention, because new users who come in here and want to learn what this thing is and what it sounds like, they are going to view it the same way. So the learning curve getting in here, if you are a complete noob but want to get into this world, can be a bit steep. Now, again, everybody should actually learn music instead of just pressing a button and hoping for the best. But this is about giving a good set of tools so that people can learn in different ways and people can write music and grow in different ways and different rates. Because we can always, again, in Super Audio Cart 1 fashion, we can always keep these authentic approaches in here and then just have a different folder or selection for the more refined stuff. I actually don't know why they didn't use the same approach for Super Audio Cart 2 as they did for 1, but maybe I'll learn in a moment, as you will let me know. So, cool. That's it. Very cool piece of kit. I'm sure many of you already have this, as this has been out for some time. So let me know what you think and what your experiences have been. And as always, let me know what you think of this video. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Finished.